So welcome to those who just joined us. We're going to give it a few more minutes before we get started, just to allow people some more time to hop on. And so we'll get started at about 5 after. Is that some waiting room music? Please enjoy the tunes while we wait for the session to begin.
John Coltrane.
You got it. You get the bonus points. One of my favorites.
Okay, I think we are ready to go ahead and get started. It is 5 after. Thank you to everyone for being on time. Welcome to our second session of Help Finding Work is Tough. This is a 5-part series. So we had session 1 last week, and today we're moving on to session 2. How do I get noticed? Today, we have a few different presenters. Myself, I'll just be introducing the program. My name is Christina Robinson. I am the outreach coordinator for the Salvation Army Veteran Employment Services Program. And today I am joined by John Connell, who is a career development specialist with VES. That is what we call it for short. Charles Smith is our program manager. And then we are also joined by special guest Diana Ling, who is a business specialist with the Department of Rehab, who will also be assisting with presenting today. So on this first slide, you will see our website and our contact information. If you have any questions or want to know more about our program, feel free to contact us. I'll be putting these in the chat box here shortly. And first, I'd like to go over some Zoom etiquette. So we ask that everyone please keep your microphones muted throughout the presentation unless we're in a portion where it is interactive and the speaker is asking for feedback or for responses. If you have any questions, we encourage you to please use the chat box, and it'll be monitored by myself and another colleague of mine, Christian Starling. So we'll be monitoring that chat box, answering any questions you might have. And also, if there's any question that you're not comfortable asking in this setting, again, you can feel free to email us or call. I'll supply you with a number here shortly. You can call, and that is my direct line that you would be calling if you have any questions about the program. We can move over to the next slide. So just a little bit about our program. The Salvation Army Veteran Employment Services Program is here to assist unemployed and underemployed veterans with a customized approach to career development. We are a veteran-centered employment program, so we are dedicated to providing direction and resources that will allow veterans to meet their full potential. More specifically, we can assist with targeted resumes, interview coaching, job search coaching, access to our network of employers, job-related training and resources, and guidance to other veteran benefits and resources. And again, you see our contact information there. So if you have any questions or want to register with us, please feel free to contact me, or you can go to our website and register. So the second session, how do I get noticed? It's going to cover our key job searching techniques, some simple networking strategies, how to understand and navigate the hidden job market. And we also have our guest speaker, Diana from the Department of Rehab, who will address some, some topics on job searching with a disability and also explain what services they have. We do have some upcoming sessions since this is a 5-part series, so you can see those there on your screen. And they're every Thursday, 11 to 12. We encourage you to register for all of the sessions because we have planned them in a way to help you build from start all the way to securing that position. So let's go ahead and get started. So up first we have John Connell.
Hello there. Welcome. My name is John Connell. I'm one of the career development specialists. I work more in the Ventura County area. We have 12 different career specialists covering the greater Los Angeles area. And I'm going to be speaking first on informational interviews. And so the first question is, what is an informational interview? So essentially, it's a short conversation with someone in the industry or a company or a role you're interested in learning more about. And so the question is, what are the benefits of an informational interview? It's a way to learn about, if you're looking to make a career change, you can learn more about an industry directly from a person working in that industry. Or if you're learning to learn more about a company as well, that's a great way to get more information. It's also a great way to build up your network. You don't want to ask the person for a job when you're actually interviewing them, but it can also lead to a job if it seems like a good fit and the person's really interested in that you're talking to. And it's also a way to learn about the hidden job market, which Charles is going to speak more on later and teach us about exactly what the hidden job market is. So this is a way to get inside information on companies and jobs that may not be posted. And it's also a great way to let an employer know that you've researched them and that you know about the company. Because say you're in a job interview and they ask the question, so why do you want to work here? You can tell them, well, I've interviewed, I know a lot about the company. I've talked to some people who work in the company or in the industry. I know that this really lines up with my values and my skills. And it can really impress a person in an interview and lead to you getting the actual job offer. So how do you conduct an informational interview? So first thing you want to do is you want to ask someone doing the type of work in the industry that you're interested in. And you want to ask them for just like a 20-minute phone conversation. You don't want to ask, you want to let them know that you're going to be brief and it's not going to take a lot of their time. But often if the conversation's going well, they'll invite you to continue the conversation. And but at the same time, you just want to be respectful of people's time when you're asking for an interview to speak with them. It used to be that you'd maybe want to do the interview in person, but now with COVID and everything, it might be better to do it through Zoom or through phone call or something along those lines. You want to find people through utilizing your network of friends, family, affiliations. You can also utilize LinkedIn or maybe even Facebook. And again, you just want to remind them that you only need like maybe 15, 20 minutes of their time. So you want to be prepared. You want to research the person ahead of time so that you are not asking them questions that you can find online. And it's also going to impress them if you've maybe research them on LinkedIn and you know a little bit more about them, where they can know that you've taken the time to learn about them, and you can ask more insightful questions based upon the research that you've done ahead of time. And you want to have questions ready in advance to ask them. So let's look at some of the questions that you can ask. For example, if you're interviewing someone, you can ask them, how did you get into this line of work? Or what do you enjoy about the work? Or what's not so great about it? What's changing in the sector? What advice for someone looking to get into this line of work? And is there someone else you should suggest I talk to? So that's important, is they can lead you to the next person that you can interview, which may be the bridge person that leads to the job. And you don't want to ask them, you don't want to put them on the spot and ask them for a job. That's going to just make everybody uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean that, they may, who knows, they might know of a position that they can lead you to, or even offer, depending upon the level that the person that you're talking to. So in summary, you want to do your homework, have enough background research before going in, and sound like a credible candidate who's committed to moving into a new career. So do your research ahead of time. Prepare a succinct explanation about your background. You don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about yourself. You want to be just asking them relevant questions, but you also want to give them insight into yourself, but do it in a brief way. So send a handwritten thank you note, preferably, but if not, then send one by email, and also request to connect with them on LinkedIn. Request, and again, be respectful of the 20-minute time limit. Some don'ts, don't go in cold, so research ahead of time. Don't let one negative informational interview sour you on a job search. Just because the person you're talking to may not like the job or the company, that is just one perspective. So you might want to just talk to more people just to see if it's just that one person that maybe has some negative things to say. And you don't want to ask for any favors or the job during the informational interview. So we'll have a time for questions later at the end of the presentation if you have more questions on informational interviews. So next, we're going to look at passive versus the active job search. So many people, when I work with job hunters, often the primary way that people are looking for jobs is through finding job postings online, and then just applying to jobs online based upon what they find on Indeed or other job search sites. But but today we're going to look at 14 different ways to look for jobs and the effectiveness of each method. And we're kind of dividing them up into what we call passive job search methods versus active job search methods. So example of a passive job search method might be applying to jobs through Indeed, where you just kind of click on the job posting, and then it says, apply for this job, and you click it, and maybe that's all that's involved. So that would be an example of a more passive method of looking for a job. Versus an active method is going to be more maybe networking and talking to friends and family and trying to get connections within a company to help you connect with a bridge person. So we're going to look at these different methods, and generally speaking, the effectiveness rate for each method is directly proportional to how much work is required for that particular method. For example, networking is going to require you to reach out to people and make some connections, whereas applying to a job online can be pretty simple and doesn't take a whole lot of work. And it's not to say that a passive method of looking for a job is not going to lead to a job, because it very well may, but I often talk to people who've applied to maybe 100, 200 different jobs, and they're just frustrated because it hasn't resulted in a job yet. So it's really important to kind of expand the methods of how you're looking for work. And so let's look at some of the different methods. So this this data research is based upon some work by Richard Bowles, who wrote the classic book, What Color's Your Parachute? So this data is a little bit older. It doesn't quite include LinkedIn into the equation, but you'll notice that after each of these methods, it shows like 1% effective or 7% effective or up to 24 or 12% effective. So the first method we're going to look at is posting one's resume online. So this, based upon research, shows to be 1% effective. I have gotten jobs through that, through doing that. So it's not something that you want to eliminate from your job search. It's just something to keep in mind, because as I mentioned, some people, do like 200, maybe 400 job postings, and they're kind of wondering why may not be happening. So mailing out resumes to employers, that can be 7%. Answering ads, 7%. Newspapers, you can tell this data is a little bit older because it mentions newspapers. Going to private employment agencies or search firms can be 5 to 24% effective. And going to places where employers come to pick out workers, such as union hiring halls, 8%, and taking a civil service exam, 12%. Now we're going to look at some of what's called the active job search methods, which have a higher yield for your, I guess you could say, times that you actually engage in this particular activity. And again, these methods require a little bit more effort on your part than doing a job application. Not that some job applications are all, sometimes they can take quite a while, as we know. So, so asking a former teacher or professor for job leads, that's can be pretty effective. Going to state federal employment service office, such as the America's Job Center, that can be effective. 14%, asking family, friends, or professionals you know for job leads, 33%, and knocking on the door of an employer, factory, or office that interests you, whether you know they have a vacancy or not, that's showing 47%. And by yourself using the phone book, which we don't really use phone books, but it'd be more online. Identifying fields that interest you, then calling employers in those fields to see if they're hiring for the kind of work you do. So that would be like reaching out to them directly. And doing the same thing, but in a group with other people, it shows 84% for that. So that would be working with a group of people and reaching out together. Not necessarily to the same company, but I guess it's just working together with a group of people would be more motivating and shows to be more effective. And then last but not least, we have the most effective job search method, which involves what's called the creative approach to job hunting or career change. So doing homework on yourself, which is figuring out what your top skills are, your values, and then matching those to doing the informational interviews, which we already talked about, and reaching out to your network and people within the industry and working that way to make the connections. And you want to try to get in touch with the person who actually has the power to hire you. And that's essential too. So this type of search has an 86% effective rate. So this kind of just gives us a summary of the active versus job search methods. So how many methods should you be using? Should be using all 14. Research discovered that the job hunting success increases with each additional method you use, but only up to 4 methods. So you don't want to use more than 4, but you can use up to 4. 1/3 of all job hunters never find a job because they give up too soon. And the ones who give up most easily are the ones who are using only one job hunting method, such as sending out a resume. So 51% of those who use only one method of job hunting abandon their job hunt by the 2nd month. And on the other hand, of those who are using 2 methods, only 31% abandon their job search by the 2nd month. And this does not mean that these job searchers don't resume their job search. They just give up for a short time due to the frustration. And you can imagine if you send out 200 resumes to job postings and nothing happens, it can be very frustrating. So in summary, active job search methods have greater success rates, but they do require more effort on your part, but they do have a better yield of success. Each method you add increases your effectiveness. And again, that's up to using 4 different methods. The thought on that, no one knows exactly why, but the idea is if you're using like 5 or 6, then you may not be concentrating enough on the ones that you are using. So it's better to concentrate on like up to 4 different methods. And it's okay to use a combination of passive and active methods. The best one is the one that gets you the job that you're looking for. And so we are, okay, we're up to Charles Smith is going to present from here. And again, we're going to have a time for questions later on regarding what I went over. And Charles is going to pick up now and talk on the hidden job market.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? Really good to see everyone out and here to get this information. I've been teaching on the hidden job market since 2011. And really, some of the methods have changed, but the market itself has not changed. And so I want to really dive into some specific things that we're going to drill down a little bit into the overview that John gave us, and really look at some effective methods to use that are research-based that helps people get jobs quicker. You know, you work hard, you want to be able to take all that skill and knowledge that you've developed over the years and apply that to earning an income for yourself, right? And so when you think about it, we talked about active and passive. One of the key things is that if like he's talked about how people drop out because they're not using the methods. You know, people will sit at the computer for a few hours and just search and submit resumes. Number one, that's boring, and it's exhausting. And you need more of a mix. So mixing up with some phone calls, mixing up with going out and talking to people, doing something fun. And a lot of times we'll dive into this. Doing something fun can actually lead to a job, and it might seem odd, but we'll talk about how that works. So really, let's take a deeper dive into the. And I would like to click on the right screen here. Sorry about that. Take a deeper dive into the hidden job market. So according to EDD 2019 Labor Market Information Division, Los Angeles County has about 503 businesses, over 500,000 businesses that are registered in the LA County area, right? And a lot of those are just like sole proprietorships. There are people that are working jobs and have a business, and there's a lot of different situations going on there. But I want to really break down this information into the 3 areas of small, medium, and large businesses so that you can really understand the landscape of the hidden job market. So number one, you're looking at about 60,000 employers with 10 to 99 employees. Now, I worked for a software company, that at the time I was hired, we had less than 50 employees. And by the time I left, we had over 100 employees. And so we had doubled in size, and we had really generated a lot of revenue. And so it's interesting working at a company like that in that growth stage, because you're really in a stage of moving from sort of a mom and pop sort of family shop to more of a corporate setting. In that case, I was working out in the corporate world, and so you got a lot of people making good money. So just because a company is smaller doesn't mean people aren't making money. And you'll see that payrolls, I didn't include the payroll data in here, but you'll see that people working at smaller and medium-sized companies are still making really good money. So that's really not the issue. But what I want to call to your attention, if you notice here, is that the numbers drop as the companies get larger. There's a smaller number of larger companies, and they still hire less people than the medium and large sized businesses. So why is that important? What's significant about that? Well, if you think about it, most of the companies that you can name offhand are probably large companies, right? If someone asks you, well, name a company you want to work for, and you'll think of some really big company, some really big conglomerate, right? And so you're missing out on more than half the jobs that are out there, right? So just look at the data. So how do you get connected to those small jobs, right? That's the question that we're gonna answer today. And then think about this, right? With those smaller companies, how are they advertising their jobs, right? How are they bringing employees on, right? Is it going to be through Career Builder or Monster and these big advertisements? Probably not. They probably don't have the budget for that, right? So let's look at how small businesses hire. If you see here, it's a breakdown of this is a survey done by LinkedIn, right? And they're of course trying to promote being on LinkedIn, which we support. We think it's a great idea to have a LinkedIn profile and to actually spend time developing the LinkedIn profile. And you can Google how to, bolster your LinkedIn profile. Or if you're signed up with us, we can help you with that as well. We can give you that information. But comparing channel success rates, right? We're just looking at online job posting there. So you got online job posts, 64%. So a lot of things have changed from the data. John had a little bit older data. Now this is newer data, right? So a lot has changed now. Online posts are like 64% now. Hardly anything comes through newspapers anymore. The resume database, people have their resumes on these databases like ZipRecruiter, right? And then there's the other. What is that? We'll get to that in a minute. And then external recruiters, right? So headhunters. Temp agencies have, ever since the 2009, temp agencies have seen business like never before. And I worked for a company who did sales recruitment and placement. I was with my second job out of college, and I learned a lot about the human experience, but also about the nature of recruiting and how businesses treat that when they're hiring, because they have to pay for that hire, right? That's an extra expense. On top of the fact that once they hire someone, they've got to spend another $6,000 to $10,000 training them and getting them set up to work. So, excuse me. And then you got, career fairs is down there, conference, offline job ad, right? So those things are lower down, but I want to key into the other, because that's really our hidden job market, the other. And we're going to break down what that is. But because if you notice here now, this next thing talks about the next chart, I should say, talks about channel satisfaction. So in other words, methods for finding candidates that companies were happy with. So they had some good success, 30% with online job posts, resume database, external recruiters, right? But then here we go again, the other, right there, they've had good success with that. So let's take a look at that. Now, the Balanced Careers is a great website to go to gain knowledge and information. You can research stuff like this. But they had a list of best job search sites. And I pretty much agree with this for the most part. Best overall, Indeed, I think so. I've been using Indeed for many, many years before they started doing the commercials. And they're really great. I'll go into a little bit more depth later on why they're great. But But Monster is kind of still a good site, but you're still going to get connected to those larger companies, right? Because they're paying lots of money, like thousands of dollars, to post these jobs on their site and to manage their site through Monster. But what Monster is really good for, what I use it for, it has a dynamic library of information in terms of if you want to write resumes or how to transition your careers or cover letters, things like that. They have a tremendous library that you should use. Glassdoor is great for researching companies. FlexJobs is a new one. I checked it out. You have to pay for this site. It's not terribly expensive, but when money is short, that can be a tough one, right? So I think it was roughly about $7 a month. So it's not too terribly bad. But if you want a remote job, right, work from home, which I think is an awesome thing, that is something that you could consider. The Ladders is an excellent site. That usually focuses on jobs that are over 100, they're 6 figures or more, so $100,000 or more. So that's usually the type of jobs that are going to be posted on the Ladders. And they have a lot of great information too for, mid and upper management and executive level positions. And then you got some other ones down there, Angels List, we talked about. LinkedIn should be on that. So now let's focus in on Indeed. Now, why do I like Indeed? Because Indeed is a web crawler. It's like the Google of job searching. So companies can pay to sponsor job postings on Indeed, but Indeed's job postings are free. As a matter of fact, Indeed goes out and finds jobs that are posted, and then they put it on their site. So you're going to have access to a lot more companies. And not only that, you're going to have access to mid-size and small companies. And why is that? Well, because nowadays everyone at least has a website. And so whereas they may not pay for their job to be posted, it's easy for them to post it on their website. And so Indeed can go through as a web crawler and find those jobs and post it up, right? And so that's what makes it very powerful, because you're able to get connected with a job, with a company that you've never heard of before. And I'm gonna explain to you one other method. We talked about it in the last series, so I won't go into too much detail about it. But in the last series, we talked about using Boolean operators in order to discover what kind of jobs are out there. And so now we're going to talk about how to use that same philosophy to find jobs in the local area that you can actually apply for. So one of the things I want to, before we go into that, one thing I want you to think about is how do small businesses hire, right? Why is that other there? That other stands for employee referrals, right? How many of you know that a lot of companies have incentives for employee referrals, right? So if employee gets a 500, $100, $1,000 to refer an employee in, and so they like that method. It works for them, and they can find good quality candidates, because obviously, if I work at a company, I'm not going to refer someone in that I don't want to be around, right? So it's a good method, and so a lot of times a smaller company will just announce it to their workers and say, who you got, right? And they'll bring them those people in and they'll hire them. But this is a way to kind of cheat the system a little bit. And so using this Boolean logic you see here, where it has circled their reports, capital A and D is the Boolean logic, and filing. So if my skills, I'm searching by my skills, not just job titles, right? So if my top skills are reports, I love filing reports, and I love filing, files and documentation information, then that's something I want to look for. But again, if I'm not interested in hospitals, if I just started the search with just reports and filing, and I kept coming up with stuff at hospitals, then I can put the capital NOT, and I can remove the hospitals from that search. And so this is going to give me a deeper dive into companies that have the words reports and filing both in that job description. And so what we're doing is we're going through this database full of companies, and we're looking for the specific skills listed in the job that are most important to us. So it's important for you to spend some time thinking about, what are the top skills that I enjoy doing, that I'm good at. And if you can take that combination and search for jobs, you'll probably have a better experience with finding work. And then let's say you find a job that you're not necessarily qualified for, or you are qualified for, You can research that company. You can find out other jobs that they have that are related to that job, and you can research their competitors and try to find work at their competitors also. Now, they did a national survey through JobVite, and they found that 35% of people found jobs posting on social media. So 35% of the participants in the survey found their job on social media, right? And most likely it was Twitter. Twitter has become one of the biggest job, searching tools along with LinkedIn, right? Twitter and LinkedIn are like right up there. And then 50% heard about job from a friend. That's a big number. And then 37% learned about job from professional networks. We're going to take a little bit deeper look at that. Right now, if you a lot of the principles you use, because we talked about before that the job search process is very personal to you because you're frustrated. You're like, I need money, I need to work. It's a part of our identity, but hopefully it's not our whole identity, the job that we do. But we don't want to. Sometimes when we lose work, we feel ashamed or we just feel depressed and down. But it's the job is not our full identity. There's a whole other person outside of that job. But when we go in for the job, we're looking at it as a business transaction, right? If you think of it as a business transaction and you're not thinking about paying your bills and your status, but you're thinking about that what skills you have and what's the problem of doing the job and how you are the solution to the problem of doing the job. When you can think about it in that term of a problem solver, solution oriented person that can solve the problem of that job, then you have a much better chance of obtaining that job and at least making a good impression on them. But we'll talk more about that in the series coming up about interviewing. But in looking at business transactions, you're thinking about marketing. A job is marketing their company and marketing the job so they can attract the right people to work for them. And you're marketing your skills to the company so that they'd be interested in hiring you. And so the best form of advertising by far, you can see here, word of mouth is 92%. And that's why it's so important to open your mouth and talk to people and tell them, I'm looking for work. You can still be embarrassed about it because it's not fun to be out of work, but at least you're letting people know that you need a job and maybe you can help them, as it says there, get on your team and help them look for jobs. They can help you look for jobs also, right? And then you look here, 70% online opinions and then advertising, right? So those are the ways that we find out about information and we respond to that information. And so we covered a lot of this with John, but I just wanted to point these things out. When you're looking at family members and family events, don't hide, go out, go engage with people, talk to them. Social events, social media, get out there on your social media and say, hey, I'm looking for work, but I got a strategy for you. So you're not just going to say, hey, hire me. You're going to say something specific that's going to trigger people to look for the right job for you and get you connected to where you want to be. Thinking of, there's an app, if you haven't heard of it, it's called Meetup. And that's an app you can download on your phone. I believe they have a website as well, but Meetup has all these different groups. So it can be for fun and group activities and all that stuff. Maybe you want to find a military group, former Army, Marines, or whatever the case may be. There's all types of stuff on there. If you want to do real estate investment, if you want to, whatever you want to do, there's probably a group out there someone started. And if you don't find the group, you can start your own group on there, and then people can start joining your group. But it's an excellent way to get connected with people. And since the pandemic, a lot of the groups that were meeting in person have been doing virtual connections and meetings. There's trade shows and industry conferences, which John mentioned before, community events, and then your military and alumni events, right? Reach out to that network, especially exercise groups, hobby groups, clubs, volunteer work, right? If go volunteer in the industry that you want to work in, that's an excellent tool. So now that you know that you got to get out there and connect with these people, what are people going to say about you? Well, we got to look at two things: personal brand and value proposition. What is your personal brand? Well, number one, it has to be a clear message about what you want people to see, right? And I can give you an example of that is that when you're thinking about work, when you're trying to go for a job, people aren't hiring you because they like you. That's a very small part of it. People are hiring you because they need a specific skill set that you have, and especially in this market, to do a specific job. And so that's what you want to highlight, not that you're a good person, but the great skills that you have to do something specific and to solve a specific problem, right? So that's the message you want to put out there because that's what people are looking to hire, right? Um, One voice. Make certain your brand message is consistent across all platforms. In other words, everywhere where you have your image projected, you want it to be giving the same message. And right now, that message is, I want this particular job. And then three, evidence-based, right? Back up any broad statements and facts, show numbers, right? We'll get a little more into that a little bit later. And then keep it brief, right? Be concise in what you're talking about and make sure it includes your value proposition in 10 words or less. What is a value proposition, you say? I'm glad you asked. A value proposition is a promise of value to be delivered. The primary reason an employer wants to hire you. And so let's look at that. It's a clear statement that is number one, relevant, explains how your expertise solves the problem of doing the job and or improves profitability of the company. How often have you talked about how you can improve the bottom line when you've had a job interview or in your resume or when you're applying for jobs? How have you focused on what your contribution is going to be to the company other than you're going to work hard? And then quantify value, deliver specific benefits, right? What benefit are you delivering? And then a unique differentiation. Now, I ask this question of my clients when they're sitting across from me, and I'm saying, so why you? Why, you've heard the question, why should we hire you, right? Or they're saying, why should we hire you over someone else? And some people are offended by that question. Well, I don't know who the other people are. I don't know. Well, it's not really, the question's not about who the other people are. It's about what's unique about you that would attract the company to hire you as opposed to someone else. And if you think of it in that term, if you think of this in this business value proposition, then you'll be able to present yourself in a way that will be desirable to the company. So that's all well and good, Charles. That stuff sounds amazing, but that sounds like a lot of work to do spend the time thinking about my personal brand, making a value proposition. Like, I don't have time for that. Well, then you'll be doing what you're doing and you'll continue to be looking for work the way you have, and you'll continue to get the same results. And so it's something to think about. Now, one thing you've probably heard of before is something called the elevator pitch. And if you haven't, I'm going to introduce you to it today. So here's my spin on the elevator pitch. And it's something that incorporates the value proposition. It's basically, the idea of this thing came from, what if you got on the elevator and you ran into a CEO and you only had 30 seconds to talk to them, right? And so what would you say? Well, you'd want to tell them who you are, right? You want to tell them, what is my objective? You want to tell them, what are my strengths? Your value proposition. And then you want to tell them, what's your passion, right? So let's put that stuff all together. And it comes out something like this. Hello, my name is Charles Smith, and you are, it's a pleasure to meet you, John. I'm currently seeking employment in customer service. John, I have over 3 years of experience overcoming challenges to meet and exceed personal and company goals with a 98.7% customer satisfaction rating. I work well under pressure with a courteous, winning, and willing attitude. My goal is to change the world one smile at a time. John, what type of opportunities are you providing? Now, obviously, I've done something like that a few times, so I was able to go smoothly with it. But you're able to say that smoothly too. Now, you won't say it exactly the same every time, but you're going to have the main points that you're going to say. And that, I've done this presentation a number of times. I time it in a longer presentation, and it's 30 seconds. And so if you put this information together and get it out there, you can do this. And then we have a little sheet that helps you. It's like a little guide to do that. And you can reach out to your career development specialist if you want that information. So real quickly, what are you going to do then? You're going to identify your personal brand. You're going to write your value proposition, write your elevator pitch, practice, practice, practice. Like real estate is location, location, location. Getting the job is practice, practice, practice. If you're not practicing before, you will practice during the interview. External towards others, what am I doing? I'm aligning my social media profiles. I'm going to make sure my LinkedIn is great and any other thing I have as my personal brand. I'm going to make connections and ask for informal informational interviews. I'm going to attend events and be social. You never know who you'll meet at these events. Conduct employers of interest, even if job not posted, right? So it's one thing to go around telling people I'm out of work. It's another thing to go around telling people your elevator pitch, right? And I think that can buy into that. And lastly, volunteer somewhere. Now here's the key. You can spend 1 hour a month volunteering somewhere, and it doesn't matter if you did that or 2 weeks a month. On your resume, it's still going to be the same thing. And most companies are not going to ask you, well, how much time you spend volunteering that? You're just going to say, hey, I volunteer doing this. And you're only spending 1 hour a month doing it, right? And what you're doing is you're developing relationships and building a network of people in the field that you want to do, and that you might have a reference that you can use when you're applying for the job. And then subscribe to pertinent news alerts and continually build your knowledge of the job and industry you want. Okay, that's very important. And why is that an external and not internal? Because if you put the information in, it's going to come out when you're talking to people, and they're going to see, hey, this guy, he's done some thinking, he's done some reading. This lady, she's really intelligent. She knows about what's happening in our industry, and that's what you want, right? So this is a great thing. And again, how is this going to happen? Well, you have to be diligent, because diligent follow-up and follow-through will set you apart from the crowd and communicate excellent. And that's from John C. Maxwell. He's a major pastor, but also a major trainer in leadership. And it's so true, right? How many times have you met someone that came through and they were on point, and you were like very impressed, and you were like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? If you're that person to someone else, then you've got them on your team to help you get a job. So give quick examples, and we're a little short on time here. So I'm going to give a quick example of getting a job through networking. The first example I'm going to give is through one of the things I've seen veterans do that I always recommend against is I see veterans go to job fairs and they just walk around and they look at the companies and they're like, I don't recognize them. And then they go to one, or there might be 50 companies there. They might talk to 3 of them and then they leave, right? Talk to everybody and tell them your elevator pitch and ask them questions. I had a time I was at a job fair years ago, and I started talking to this guy, and he was like, well, I don't have any jobs for you. And I started talking to him a little, I started digging and asking questions, and come to find out, I learned about a whole new job I never knew about before. Because I have an engineering background, but I never worked in engineering. I have business background, sales, right, at the time. And so there was a job that was a marriage of the two. And it was very interesting. It turned out that it wasn't necessarily the focus I wanted, but I discovered something new that I'd never known before, and it was a potential role for me to go down. And then I'm in the career I love, career development, and I've never been out of a job for more than a month since I've been in this field. I've had people want to hire me after asking me, tell me about yourself. And it was quick. It was like they automatically knew this guy we need on our team. And that's because I'm passionate about this and I love doing this. And so when this job came around, it was through my network. It was my former boss from a different company came to this organization. And then when I was looking for work, they were like, come on aboard. And, I interviewed and all that stuff, but they were like, this is a no-brainer. We got to bring them on. And I took a pay cut, but it was because I had that connection. I was able to come in, and then I was able to work my way back up. I've had 3 careers. I've had to work my way up 3 times. And so don't be afraid to work your way back up. And then, you want me to just move on, Christina? Just give me a nod. Or are you going to share your story?
Her computer restarted, had to restart. So
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm back
go ahead.
though.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I had some technical difficulties. If we have time, I don't mind sharing. We're a
Okay,
little tight
please,
on time,
please
though.
share, and then you can introduce Diana.
Okay, so I'll make it brief. So how I got this, well, not this particular position, but before I transitioned to the outreach coordinator role that I'm currently in, I was a career development specialist with the Salvation Army VES program. I'm a military spouse. My husband's active duty Air Force. So we relocated to LA, and I was new to the military lifestyle. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I had a resume in hand and I did not have a job, and there were resources available to me. So using those resources wisely, I walked into the Airman Readiness Center with my kid in the stroller at the time, with my resume in my other hand. And I met Amber Rojas, who worked for South Bay WIB. And she looked at my resume, and I just like, I need a job. I need something. Like, I was new to the military lifestyle. So one of the biggest challenges as a military spouse is every time you move, you got to find a new job. So that could happen every 3 or 4 years, depending on how often your spouse moves. So walking into that office with my resume in hand, and she looked at it, and my most recent experience was in higher education. So I was in higher education for about 4 or 5 years working in student affairs. And my last position there was a program coordinator for the career office. So I was doing a lot of resumes for graduating college students and helping them, plan their career paths or what they wanted to do with their lives, et cetera. So she saw that on my resume, and she's like, I know of a position that's open. And she contacted Charles and Lisa. Lisa is our program director. So she contacted Charles and Lisa and told them about me. And it was like, it happened so quickly. Like, networking works in that way, where sometimes it happens so quickly because of who you know or who you get connected with. I had an interview for that position before I even had a place to live in Los Angeles. So I was out here for that 10 days looking for somewhere to live is when I went into that office. So all my stuff was still back in Virginia, which is where we moved from. And, I was interviewing in a hotel room on my way back to Virginia to pack up our place to get everything moved back out here. So, it's all about that network. And, now I've been here for almost 5 years. Luckily my husband, we did move one more time, but we got stationed in Vandenberg, which is not that far from a Los Angeles Air Force Base. So I was able to maintain my employment, which is kind of a great story as a military spouse, being able to maintain your employment through a move. And also another quick little tidbit, I do have a side hustle, what I call a side hustle. So my bachelor's degree is actually in dance. I'm working on a master's in nonprofit administration, but dance is one of my passions. So like Charles said, what you do with your job is not necessarily your entire identity, but it is a piece of it. So I like to help people. That's why I'm in this position. And also I'm a military spouse. So those are all things that are part of my identity that help me do what I do. But also dance is another piece that, I still want to nourish and, devote time to. So I called a dance studio in northern Santa Barbara County area. And I said, I have a bunch of stuff I want to donate. So that whole volunteer piece, I said, I have a bunch of stuff I'd like to donate to your studio. I had dance costumes from when I was teaching previously. And she also said, oh, well, we're looking for teachers. I had no intention of teaching at the time. But, because I wanted to donate and give back, I said, okay, well, at first I was like, well, let me know. I can, I don't mind hopping in and doing like a sub for teaching, like subbing if a teacher is missing or something like that. I didn't want to commit to teaching dance for the schedule that she had proposed. But now I'm teaching dance 2 times a week. I'm teaching about, 5 classes right now. So in the evenings. So, you know, I'm getting all those little pieces fulfilled for me right now. And it's because of networking. You know, I found that dance studio on social media. You know, what dance studios are in Lompoc, and she's a military spouse also. So it's just using the network that you have to connect with those people who like to do what you do. So yeah, those are my 2 little short stories about networking. And then hopefully you guys stay tuned with us. We're running a little tight on time, but we have Diana from the Department of Rehab who's going to cover kind of how to navigate your job search a little bit with some resources that you can use if you are, you know, if you are searching while searching with a disability. So Diana, if you could unmute your mic. Okay, and we're ready for you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Ling. I'm a business specialist at Department of Rehab, and my office is actually located in Pasadena. So if you can, whoever is helping with the slide, go ahead and do the presentation first. So DOR, our mission is to work with work in partnership with our consumers, which is our clients, to help provide services for them, and also to advocate for them in pursuit of employment, which means independent living, etc., and also equality. And primarily, my agency focuses on folks with disabilities, and also anybody who has barriers to employment. Next slide, please. So at DOR, Department of Rehab, our fundamental belief is that individuals with disabilities can be fully integrated and also be highly productive community members and also employees alongside as colleagues. So the eligibility piece is that you have to have at least one or more disabilities or impairment, and that could be physical, it could be mental, it could be developmental, and then your goal has to be, if you're with us, is to you know, your final outcome is to have vocational rehabilitation, which means that once you are employed, for example, we keep tabs on you for up to 3 months. And after that, we close your case. So during that time, you know, if there's any issues and things like that, that's where we come in. Okay, go ahead. Yes. So to be part of our program, the participants or the clients, the consumers are expected to be available, to be responsible, and active and dedicated to being part of the whole thing, which is to secure employment. So we want higher quality of life for our consumers to become employed, to be independent, and as such, to be equal in living with everyone else in the community. So we customize the service delivery according to the person. Obviously, not everybody wants the same thing, but the ultimate thing is employment. And that is how we play along with it. And we provide services for benefits planning. So folks that are receiving Social Security benefits, for example, we can guide them to, you know, some of the pitfalls and things like that. And we do career assessments and counseling, obviously. And my piece of it, it would be job search and interview skills, etc. And then we also have independent livings for folks that are maybe more impacted by disabilities. We have career education and training, and also we have assistive technology. So hiring people with disabilities, it makes sense. A lot of employers big and small, sometimes don't understand the word disability and they are very fearful. So we come into place when we are called upon, and we speak to, or at least I do on a regular basis, to educate everybody to let them not be worried about that. And we also have obviously incentives for employers to hire folks with disabilities. And also we have on-the-job training, for example. So that is also another piece that would come into play. So an employer who is hesitant of hiring somebody with a disability would not be as, hopefully not as fearful. So basically we pay for the wages up to a certain point. Next slide, please. Okay, so back to hiring folks with disability, that the employers are a big part of this. And of course, you know, on the other hand, consumers or our participants are just as important. So we serve as like the middle person, if you will. Okay, so next slide, please. So these are some of the resources I want to point towards. The second one is very, very powerful, is JAN network, is Job Accommodation Network. And if you go online, there's assistive technology for reasonable accommodation and such. And it is very, very important to know. So hopefully you take a picture of that. And then lastly, I have my contact information. Or not. It's okay. I'll share it on the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat. So sorry.
Oh,
You know what? The slides got mixed up. I don't know how that happened. Here we go.
It's okay. It's okay. But I also wanted to say that I know we're running out of time, but I want to stress upon the fact that, you know, we like to partner with you know, Salvation Army and some of the other entities in the community, so that you know that we're around and that we can co-enroll and partner and be on your team as you look for work. So we have folks that are you know, military or non-military. So, you know, we welcome them all. So if you want to reach out to me, my information is there, and I can guide you to how to navigate. Actually, there's another piece of my presentation, but we're running out of time, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much for having me on.
All right, so thank you, Diana, for sharing that information. And I pasted those links and that Diana mentioned in the chat box there, so you can copy and paste them out of the chat if you would like to. And also we'll send this presentation out to everyone who is here today and everyone who registered for the event. So we do have a few more, I think 3 more exactly, 3 more sessions coming up. The next one is job application tips and tricks. So to register for that, go ahead and go to the link, which I'll post in the chat box here shortly. Just to, you know, to learn about different job applications and assessments and the importance of tailoring your resume, cover letters, and listing reputable references. So we do have another guest for that session, and John and the guest will be presenting during that session. And then also, if you are in need of assistance with your job search, please sign up with us. And here are the instructions to sign up. When you go to our website, there's a register now button, and you can click on that button. And there's a short form with mostly contact information that we'd like you to fill out for us, and click submit. And that's how you register for our program. And we'll have one of our career development specialists reach out to you within, I think it's within 72 hours, to go ahead and set up that first appointment to speak with you regarding kind of what your goals are, and to do a run through of how we can best assist you reach those goals. So thank you so much for joining us today. I guess we can take a few questions for those who don't mind sticking around. If you have questions, you can feel free ask them now or pop them in the chat. I didn't see any questions throughout the presentation that popped up in the chat, or you can just email us at ves.usw.salvationarmy.org. So let me go ahead and pop some of these in the chat. Here is our, here's that email address again. And there's a few links, so I'll leave the chat up for a little while so you guys can copy and paste what you need. Here is our website where you can register, or if you want to share that website with someone else who you think could benefit from our services. And then to register for the next session, oh, I lost it.
Mhm.
Does someone else have that link available to register for the next session? And go ahead and copy and paste it over. My computer restarted in the middle of our presentation, so I apologize. I don't have everything open that I had open previously. But I'll go ahead and email everyone that's registered with that link again. And you'll also be getting a link for a survey, which I think I do have saved over here in a little note. So I do have a link for a survey. If you could please go ahead and fill that out for us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to know more about. It just helps us to continue to put these on for you guys and supply you with valuable information. So thank you again for everyone, to everyone for being here. I recognize some names from the first session, so thank you for joining in on both sessions, and hopefully we'll see you next week. All right.
Hey, Christina and Charles.
Yes.
Just thank you again for putting this event together. Really great information, great session. Learned a lot. Did you all have any questions for me from, we spoke during the last event about Project Management Institute and helping anybody that's interested in project management.
I don't have any questions right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we were gonna follow up just to, because we have an event with the Wounded Warrior Project that's coming up. I think next April, or yeah, next month, so April. Just wanted to see if y'all needed any information on it. I can provide you with the links. I think they've started to advertise it.
Yeah,
We definitely want to be partner with that and be involved with that and be able to share that with the veterans that are in our program. So yeah, you know, any way that we can connect. But yeah, I mean, it just sounds great. So, you know, definitely want to be able to have all the information and be able to provide that to everyone. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sounds great.
yeah, I have
I
your,
sent you all a connection on LinkedIn.
okay. Yeah, I'll have to look out for the connection. Go ahead, if you have that information, can you send it to us?
Yeah.
I can type the
Yeah, let me
email
see
address
if they've
again.
submitted it. I think they have to start marketing on San Diego's PMI page.
Okay.
They should have